I was wondering if we could begin by, if you could just tell me a little bit about your own background and maybe sort of your own journey into becoming a teacher of meditation and Buddhism, and sort of how you got to where you are.
So my own journey began many years ago, actually 21 years ago, when I did my first 10 days Vipassana retreat. And until then I was completely in the mainstream and so forth in the corporate world, not happy with it, but I did not know anything else then. And while practicing the retreat, quite immediately I realized that this is something that is, for me, was so important and actually life-changing, and that I want to pursue, I want to follow, I want to explore more and more. And back then in Israel, there were none, or at least I didn't know of much. I think there was at the time very little, but I thought there were none, or I didn't know. So I bought a ticket to go to India, which was never my passion, but but I thought that that would be a good idea to visit and basically practice there. And I thought I'd spend 1 or 2 months there and come back to my life, which I never did. Very quickly I realized, being in India, that this is the path I want to continue on, and I stayed the full year, practicing a lot in retreats, meditation centers, monasteries in India and in Thailand. Yeah, so I had a lot of practice back then, and where I met my teachers and went deeper and deeper into that world. And when I came back, that's actually how I continued. This is what I wanted to do, and after very few years I became a teacher of it, because in our tradition, your teacher is actually asking you to become one, to become a teacher, and to share your practice with others. So very happily I said yes, and the rest is history. This is what I do full time for probably 17 years now. Yeah.
And what was it you felt then on that first sort of retreat? What, if you can describe that, what happened?
A total change of point of view. This is what happened to me. And I mean, it came with a transformation, basically. Instead of the habit of looking outside all the time, I was given the tools, the how-to, to go deeper and deeper inside, so to speak. And the realization and the insights and the way in which I got to know myself better were very fascinating to me. And this is just one way of talking about it. And it wasn't easy. It was like the hardest thing ever that I did, the first one. Yeah. It was really, really hard, because I came from such a different background and I had no imagination even what it means to sit a 10 days retreat, 10 hours per day. It was a sitting only retreat. I teach differently now. It's a different tradition. But it was by far the hardest thing I ever done. And
that's really diving into it. You're not dipping your feet. You're diving right into it with like a 10-day retreat.
Completely. Total. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I wasn't like dipping. I was like, I go full on. Yeah.
So allow me like a naive question. If you were to describe what is meditation, how would you describe what that is?
What is meditation? Well, for me, it would be the way in which we can look and see things more and more clearly, see our patterns, see the way in which the world is manifesting, and not via the usual view that we have due to conditioning, due to education, but it's, if I can sum it up in a few words, it's changing point of view. This is what meditation is for me. And then there's the how-to, and a very simple method or way in which I'm teaching it as well is the mindfulness meditation that came from the ancient deep teaching of the Buddha, which is a moment-to-moment awareness to the processes of mind and body, unjudgmental moment-to-moment awareness. But that, in and of itself, is just the beginning. By far, it is not the end. So it's also in the mix. The qualities of the heart and mind are being developed once we incline the mind towards it. So you might say there's another term. It actually comes from Kabbalah. It's about enlarging the vessel, a little bit rubbing against the edge, so our container is bigger. So we are not like, being swept away by all kind of dramas in life, and we have them in plentitude as being humans, So that's another facet of what is meditation. There's no one answer for me, I would say. It's not a thing. Sorry. It's not a thing also. You might say it's becoming, creating or created or being created or co-created. So it's not like an object that I can say, this is, what it is. No.
And then, since you began your journey, I imagine you've seen sort of the popularity of the mindfulness movement in the West, and the evolution of apps that people are downloading on their phones and are meditating, and the big companies are providing mindfulness courses to their employees, and all of this. And how do you see that development?
I actually bless it because we never know. We never know what key exactly opens the door that you need to get through whatever you need to get through to. So for some people it's the apps, because this is their world, and it won't make much sense to criticize, for me, to criticize the latest development by pointing out their shadow, which obviously exists, which is being shallow, etc. Of course, you cannot compare, 5 minutes in between something to something else, which is longer, maybe deeper in teaching and practice. But there's room for everything, including that. And I also feel it shows us something about this generation. It's beautiful that there's such an interest in meditation, and people are looking for the ways in through what they know. So voila, bring it in.
And so it's probably too early to tell, but what do you think? Do you think it makes a difference that more and more people are practicing mindfulness in whatever way, or short or shallow ways? Or do you think something's going to change? Or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is my view, but also my experience. In 2002, here in Israel, we formed an organization that we did peace walks all through Israel and some of Palestine. Just like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and the monks and nuns in the East, that in times of war, they came out of the homes, out of the monasteries and nunneries, and walked the earth with the intention of peace, of harmony, and so forth. We did it for quite a few years, and many beautiful things happened from that. And now, as we speak, you know, there's this huge demonstrations going on in Israel. And myself and other friends, Dharma teachers and Dharma students are very much involved. Actually, I'm going to lead one on Thursday, tomorrow, a very big event over there, just in front of the Prime Minister house. And it started out spontaneously. Me and another friend, we were in a demonstration a few weeks ago, and we said, let's just sit. This is what we know to do. Let's just sit. And we just sat there. We were a bunch of people, yeah? And when we opened our eyes after some time, there were like tens and tens and tens around us, just sitting. And I feel it's such a thirst in people. And it was possible because people had already the experience of mindfulness and how much it touched them, or, you know, made them curious about something and asked the right questions and so on. So I see a strong link between meditation and social action, for example, and politics, for example. And it's so much about bringing the good qualities of the heart, the peace, the love, the wisdom that we all have inside of us, but oftentimes they are obscured by fear, by hatred. A lot of the practice is to realize that, to recognize it, and then to do what one needs to do, not to stumble over and fall and believe and identify with these deep habit patterns of aversion, of hatred, and say yes to the other qualities in us that they very much alive. They just need us to see them to grow more. So a long answer for your question, but definitely it makes a difference. I see it. I see it in the Dharma scene in Israel. There's so many more people involved, and they come and they make their way to Jerusalem. You know, it's not easy over there, but it's beautiful. And you see it, not just meditators, but many have this experience. And I think it manifests in what we see now.
Yes. So I guess in a way that link between meditation and social activism is a bit counterintuitive, because you could say, you know, meditation is about acceptance, right? And kindness and peace, and like, how do you reconcile sort of that attitude with, you know, fighting against injustice? Like, how do you fight as a meditator?
I wouldn't say meditation is about just, you know, saving my own little peace inside and be balanced. It's great fruits, but that's not the aim. Yeah, we're talking about absolute freedom for the heart and mind of one and others as well, because we are all connected. And as Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master and the peace worker, once said, happiness is not a private matter. It's a beautiful saying. And when one is worked and liberated something in his or her heart, mind, it's bound to have an effect. We are not isolated as sometimes we mistakenly think we are. So I would say that not to confuse tranquility with freedom. It's very important to be balanced. And a lot of the practice in meditation is the learning how to do that with less identification with the body, with the difficult emotions, for example, with life situation. When I say less identification, I don't mean pushing away. I mean taking a healthy space between us and our experience, which enables, which allows something else to come to the front. And it's not that we fight for, I mean, at least not me, I don't fight, but I stand very firmly and very strongly for what I believe and support. So I think the difference is what kind of inner landscape do you have when you do something? What is your intention? And I try, this is my practice, not to be involved at all in hatred, in anger, in animosity, in ill will. I don't hate Bibi Netanyahu at all. Yeah, I have actually a lot of compassion towards him, but that doesn't mean I say yes to what he says. Yeah, I would say no, but with an open heart, and I would strongly stand for this no, and what he represents. Yeah, also not just the person.
Yes. Can I ask you an absurd question then?
Yeah, sure.
If somehow you got the chance to teach meditation to Bibi Netanyahu,
you just read my mind. That is one of my dreams.
Really?
Getting there. I don't know. Maybe.
What do you think? What would happen, or what could happen?
Oh, my dear, I have no idea what would happen. Right. But I do wish that the process that I know that worked its way on me and on so many others can, it can have these fruits on whoever is practicing it. And it's not that, in a way, it's not personal, I would say that. The path is very, very ancient. We're talking thousands of years old, and maybe before the time of the Buddha even. Yeah. So there's so many generations, women and men of this earth that walked that path, meaning practiced it and got the fruits of it. Some more, some less, it depends on many factors. But one of the fruits, because we mentioned fruits before, is the clarity that comes with the practice, and the insights that comes with the practice, and the understanding that we all connected that comes with the practice. So practice and insight go hand in hand. And in Bibi's case, I can only hope and pray that something in the way in which he maybe perceives the situation would change. Because I think most of us, maybe even all of us, are trying to do the best we can in order to improve things. And it's so much bordering on wrong view for so many. Even the worst racists in the world, if you dig deep, underneath the hatred, there is some fear. And then when this is being seen, sometimes transformation can happen as well. So I wouldn't stop anywhere, not with Bibi, not with anybody. Hitler, no one. Everybody, as long as there's this Kabbalistic, I think it's actually Hasidic saying, as long as the candle is lit, is lit? How do you say? As long as the candle is lit, you can correct, you can fix.
That's interesting.
There's a lot of hope there, I think.
Yeah.
Saying.
Yeah. I talked to some American Dharma teachers, and I asked them the same question, but with Donald Trump. And some of them were like you, had a similar response, but others were saying no, they wouldn't teach meditation to Trump or the Trump organization, because they would fear that they would just get better at what they're doing, that they would just get more efficient.
I don't think, anyway, the way I teach it, that meditation is just about efficiency. Some people get more efficient, yes, but for me, it will be a miss not to give it a chance, because one of the things, as I said, that happen might be the insight about connectedness. Mm-hmm. And like Mother Teresa, known to said once, that the problem is with the world is that we are drawing the circle of the family too close. Yeah. And what would happen if we feel that more people are included in our family, including Trump? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Families are not easy, as you know, as we all know.
Yeah.
So why not include everyone, and then having the care, that same care that we have? Yeah. But again, it's also important to emphasize that when you come with compassion and with an open heart, it doesn't mean you are a doormat. Okay? Actually, it's the other way around. There's a lot of power that is being released when he's not trapped into hatred and animosity and resistance. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so the reason I ask, I suppose, is, as we talked about, that this project comes as kind of as a response to that sociological critique of the mindfulness movement that says that it's become this thing that that bosses give their employees to make them able to better cope with stress and perhaps make them more efficient, and it's kind of been stripped of any ethical, spiritual qualities, and it's become this instrument for just, more efficiency, more profit, and it's even been called like mindfulness.
Yes.
By some and it's also framed in this very individualistic way, as a way that I can improve myself and so I can become more efficient. So I'm wondering, what's your response to that critique? Do you think does it have some merit to it, or what's your response to that?
Well, I think there's much more there than meets the eye. It's not just a linear process in which somebody gets better in something and then you can use it as a tool and misuse it. Of course, you can misuse anything, just about anything. You can misuse, trust. You can misuse love. I mean, but in the depth of things, it's not really like that, because we never know. Somebody really wants to make more money, yes, and is putting all she or he, their energy into it, and they go through this one of these mindfulness courses. Yes, some can be pretty shallow, but that's their capacity right now. And you never know, 1 month later, a year later, 5 years later, sorry, something is being touched, something is being opened up. I mean, we are not like this final product. Whatever you put in stays in. I mean, we are like, this alive thing that keeps changing and growing and moving and transforming. So I wouldn't be so careful. And of course, there is a shadow there, and it's good to notice the shallowness. But if you use spiritual language, some people might be turned off by that. So it's really important to know who you are talking to. It's not necessarily that you have to use spirituality in order to go deep. You can go deep with very simple, down-to-earth words and still touch something very deep in the core of the being. And that's the challenge of us as teachers and as people,
Yes. Yeah. So you already talked a little bit about it, but then I guess coming off of that question about the mindfulness critique, what would you say then? What is it, if it's not that we are getting better at coping with stress or getting more efficient or whatever, what then is it that happens to us or potentially happens to us when we meditate?
Yeah, well, there are quite a few ways to speak about it, and we have to bear in mind that there are descriptions of something, and as being descriptions, in a way they point out to the truth, but we have to tread really carefully there. It's not like, this is it and that's the truth and final and that's it. So there's a few ways to speak about that, but I would actually adhere and stick to the words of the Buddha. We talk about total, utter freedom, liberation of the heart and mind. And sometimes, in the process, we get the glimpses of it. And actually, we get them not just via meditation, but usually in the daily life, they're under our radar, but we know their taste. So I would say it's about, there is like another way to speak about it is something in the mind and heart becomes more calm, more equanimous, more balanced. Some of the qualities like compassion, like kindness, like generosity are getting more and more prominent in our heart and our experience, and our life becomes saturated with them. Love, goodwill, Another way to speak about it is that insights are being cultivated. So the wisdom aspects get more and more prominent in our experience. We understand and we see things in a different way. It's seeing and understanding. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. So if before we looked at others always, let's say as an example, as the cause of our misery, something in the way in which we can turn our gaze inside and see what is actually happening to me when I'm angry, for example, or when I'm blaming, for example. What is my deepest wish, or where is my pain point, or what am I experiencing right now? And even asking the question, what kind of inner weather would I like to cultivate? I mean, these kind of questions coming from a more and more autonomous way of being, instead of being trapped in this automatic pilot of pointing the finger out or in. I mean, it depends on the person and also on the culture, in a way. Yeah, some cultures are really good in me culpa and feeling really bad, as a human being. But it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same wrong view. So one of the things that happen is the changing of the point of view. This is a major one. This is much deeper than it sounds, I think, because the ultimate change comes from point of view that is being changed completely. So that's another way to refer to it, I would say. It's not that pain stop to be there in life. Yeah, pain is inevitable in the flow of life. Pleasure and pain, they keep, appearing, disappearing, reappearing. It's called life, huh? But the way we meet them changes, and when the way we meet them changes, it completely changes our experience and our our inner atmosphere and our well-being. So that's again a long answer for your question of what is meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a very good answer, though. I think I've kind of asked you what I wanted to ask. I think my final question would be if there is something that you feel like you wanted to say but you didn't get to say, or something that was strange that I didn't ask you, or...
I would just say that it's such a blessing in one's life to be able to live life like that, less and less bound and more free. And in a way, this model of practicing enhances the goodness, the innate goodness in us. In a way, you can say it's moving whatever is shielding that. But I would really encourage anybody that has the interest to live to improve their life quality, to improve the well-being, to look for the mystery. There are different languages there. Yeah, anybody that is being touched by it, but maybe she or he thinks, oh, it's not for me, it's for those people who, whatever, you know, try it. Just try it. It doesn't make you a meditator. It doesn't make you anything. It simply allows you to come closer to yourself, and by that, closer to life, because it's not two things.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Most welcome.